life where a balance must be struck. A deal must be made. When all your free time seems to slip between your fingers and the days begin to blend together, you wake up and it's dark out. You fall asleep as the sun rises. The monotony of everyday life is tolling on you like an incessant bell calling you to rest. When will you wake up? How far must you go? Will this nightmare ever end? And then, like an invincible rainbow arrow piercing through the darkness, it strikes you. It was with you all along, your trusty partner, your guiding moonlight. All you had to do was reach out and press the power button. Then, with a click, it all begins.
Hey everyone, Salmon Pink here. Another year has come and gone, and it has brought us countless new games to play. We've gone through so much in 2021, and there were times where it felt like a new game was coming out every week. There's even a stack of games on my desk as I write this that I still haven't got a chance to try yet. Although eventually I would have to get around to making a video to share my favorites of the year with you all. And oh boy, are you in for a treat this year. You've probably already noticed that it's already 2022, and while I have delayed this video multiple times for a multitude of reasons, I can promise you that one of them is definitely not me taking a free jab at Cyberpunk 2077. Please, I have standards. That being said, another thing you've probably noticed is the length of this video. Either when you clicked on it or as it began playing. This time around, I have prepared an entire feature production for you, written, edited, and produced all by yours truly. I have spared no expense to make sure that I have covered all of the games featured this year in surgical detail, but I'm not a doctor. In this video, you'll hear me wax poetic and pour my heart out over the games that stole it. Each year when I get around to making it, I always think that having made others in the past, as well as learning and growing from each one, that I'd be better at this. But the harsh reality is that it doesn't get easier. Games are complex pieces of media, and comparing them is quite difficult. This year, more than any other year, I had games flying up and down the ranks nearly day to day as I was writing this. I would play a bit of a game before writing it and be reminded of some of the things that drew me to it in the first place, or some things that may have faded from my memory with time. Even now, I'm still unsure if I've ordered them completely to my liking. Several times in this video, I will reference my past Games of the Year videos and how I may have unjustly shafted certain games. As we grow, so do our thoughts, feelings, and preferences. It's amazing that even in the course of just a few years, I've become more aware of certain things that I like and dislike. It's quite interesting, really. We go about our day-to-day lives, and sometimes it feels like nothing is moving forward or changing. Only when we stop to ruminate the challenges we have overcome and how our past selves have dealt with them do we truly see our own growth. This is actually a good spot for me to transition into one important thing I need to cover before we actually get into the video. Anyone who's seen one of my videos before should know what's coming up. Roll the clip! That's right! This video is going to contain opinionated subject matter. All of the things I discuss in the following sections, my rankings of the games, and pretty much everything in between are all my own opinion. You may disagree with some of the rankings or thoughts that I have, and that's perfectly normal. I make this list every year to share with you the games that captured my attention in hopes to see them reach a larger audience. I mentioned earlier that even in the past couple years, I have grown much in my own opinions, and in that vein, I'd also like to announce that here in this video, I will be honorably discharging one game from one of my previous lists. That's right, the time has changed, and so have I. What game could it be? Which year was it? The only way to find out is to watch to the very end. And you may be asking yourself, how might you make your way to the very end? Like the moon up in our sky, it seems so far away. Well, what a wild coincidence, because with the help of today's sponsor, I can walk you in the right direction. That's right, today I'd like to tell you about Endwalker, the brand new expansion to the critically acclaimed MMORPG Final Fantasy XIV. If you haven't heard yet, there is now an expanded free trial where you can play through the entirety of A Realm Reborn and the award-winning Heavensward expansion up to level 60 for free, with no restrictions on playtime. As you can see on screen now, I've already dove into my own adventure, and I'm having a blast. Explore the wild and expansive world of Eorza, meet new friends and forge new bonds. See the cosplayers in Limsa Lominsa. Square Enix has graciously provided me a copy of the game to show you all, and yeah, by that I mean I signed up for the free trial myself. Yeah, sorry, this this video isn't sponsored. Fooled you all again. Yoshi P has actually inspired me though, and I want to thank him and the entire development team for all their years of service on this wonderful game. It may be ongoing and I might not be sponsored, but as a small spoiler for my honorable mentions this year, I have to give credit to Final Fantasy XIV. I genuinely have been enjoying it so far and really just want to play more. You may see me tweeting by the end of this year how far I've come, and my goal is to eventually reach a dungeon in Shadowbringers known as the Twinning, because the theme for it has got to be one of my favorite themes ever. Okay. Enough rambling about that. There's just one other thing I'd like to touch on before we get started. If you don't have enough time to watch through all of this video in one sitting, I completely understand. Since it has become so long, I've actually incorporated a number of intermissions throughout it where you can either pause it and resume it another time, or get up to stretch and grab some snacks. You can even treat this like a mini-series and watch it a section each day of the week or as you please. I'll be including chapters that divide all of the major sections so that you can conveniently stop and pick up right where you left off. All that being said, I'm going to shamelessly drop a quick plug of my Twitter at TheSalmonPink's, and we can get right into it. So, are you ready? Earlier, I said it doesn't get much easier to make these. Although, I omitted a certain part of that phrase. You get better. Much like with anything you love, you grow and become more proficient the more time you spend with it. That goes for many things too, but today we are here to talk about games. So, without any further ado, I would like to humbly present to you all, in its entirety, my top games of 2021. Let the show begin. You know, I feel like each year there are certain games that check off certain categories like itches I need scratched. And like the proverbial cat that I am, it very much pleases me to have such a metaphorical, satisfying ball of yarn of a game to keep me distracted for so long. This year, that game was Record of Lotus War, Deedlit and Wonder Labyrinth. And yes, while that name is incredibly confusing, I can promise you that I was just as baffled that this is not only a pre-established franchise of fantasy novels, but also has an anime, a manga, other games, and wait, a radio drama? How have I never come across this in all of my searches? Well, fear not, dear viewer, for much like many of you, I was thrown into something completely unknown, and despite having no knowledge of the series prior, I can certainly vouch for the merits of this game. Of course, by now, just by watching some of the gameplay, many of you have probably picked up that it's a Metroidvania. Oh, and one that certainly wears its inspiration on its sleeve if you see what I'm getting at. And before you dismiss it as a wannabe clone, allow me to stop you right there, because Record of Lotus War, Deedlit and Wonder Labyrinth. Okay, yeah, I really need another way to reference this title. It's just so long. I'm just gonna call it Wonder Labyrinth, alright? Is that okay? No confusion there. Just gonna call it Wonder Labyrinth. Wonder Labyrinth does an excellent job at building an experience for fans of the series and newcomers like myself alike. It masterfully plays off of exciting, retro-inspired upbeat soundtracks to accompany the various locales of Labyrinth that Deedlit, the main character, is trying to escape. But the twist is that Wonder Labyrinth throws a unique spin on the genre that the combat and exploration are reflected in each other through the elemental spirit system. Shortly after starting the game, you will encounter 2 elemental spirits that will accompany you on your travels as you attempt to escape the labyrinth and find out why you are even there in the first place. You can freely swap between the spirit of wind and the spirit of fire, and through combat you can individually level them up to grant you additional powers and abilities. While exploring, you may find various barriers that you cannot bypass. This is because Deedlit takes on the attributes of the active spirit for both combat and exploration. The game expertly incorporates this switching into the puzzles, battles, and even boss fights, and it is quite fun to figure out. I guess my biggest gripe with the game, if you could even call it one, is that the game is pretty short. I played through it while I was in beta last year, stage by stage as the game was released in parts, and after each update I could clear each new stage within an hour or so. Although having just recently replayed it, I can confirm it is a really good and exciting adventure, having beaten it multiple times already. It could possibly be a game I try to speedrun in the future, but I still have other games I need to hit new PBs before I try that. I truly enjoyed every minute of each of my multiple playthroughs of Wonder Labyrinth, and I certainly will be playing through it again in the coming months, as it still feels funky, fresh, and worthy of the number 10 spot on my list this year. Is it that time already? 2 games in? How many hours and I'm still in the same area? Well, it matters not. For much like how one day I'll get around to playing Dragon Quest XI's, one day I too shall finish playing Bravely Default 2. But for the time being, I do believe that I have played through enough of it to give it a fair shot on my list. Besides, when Bravely Default Flying Fairy and Bravely Second impressed me as much as they did, I knew I was in for another incredible journey when I began Bravely Default 2 earlier this year. The game features much of what I love and many others enjoy from the original Bravely games. A diverse and evolving class system that you can interchange amongst your characters, a story that seems simple at first but unravels into something much greater as you play, a lovable and dorky cast of characters, a sprinkling of some continuity breaking, and some of the most boppin' music you could ask for in a JRPG. As far as innovation goes, the game falls a little flat as it does recycle some ideas from the previous entries, but in no way does it detract from the experience. In fact, having established some norms of gameplay and progression helped me to gauge how I would progress through the game's main story and know how much I could distract myself with the various side quests. Bravely Default 2 is certainly a time investment, and while each of the environments, cities, and dungeons are gorgeous to look at, you may encounter a bit of burnout if you're not used to or do not like slightly longer or grindier games. That being said, you are in for an absolute treat if you choose to stick it out. The banter between the characters is incredible. The game dives into a ton of engaging, if not slightly predictable plotlines, and the class system is just a blast to mix and match with. And unlike the previous entry on this list, once I complete this game, I can't imagine that I'll revisit this game for at least a decade. Maybe 2. Although, I do plan to fully complete it after I'm done making this video, whenever that might happen. So I can have it fully checked off on my games to play, and not having that looming over my head as I anticipate all the great games coming out next year. But for now, I'll leave the soundtrack playing for just a tad longer before we go into the next game, because I honestly love it so much. It is really that good. Mind if I play some Tekken real quick? Yes? Great. Okay, well I'm gonna play anyways because this is my video, and even if you said no, the decision was made long before you even had the choice. Not that I'm going to discuss decision theory or the impact of your choices and how your decisions or lack thereof will shape the results in my next game on my list. Well, if you really wanted to argue, you could even say that the decision to play a game is a choice, and later in a segment I'm going to shatter that idea. Well, even in Tekken, it's a fighting game that determines an outcome based off of the choices we make in the moment. Frame by frame. Button press by button press, and one dropped combo at a time. And as much as it pains me that I don't dedicate as much time to the game as I used to, I know that anytime I can pick it back up and keep playing. Oh wait, what the hell was that, man? Ugh. I know who I am, but that is bullshit blazing.
That is bullshit blazing. Still my heart is blazing. If the word kill me, I don't need a new word under you. Soon you will know. We already know the smell of the game.
Oh hell yeah, it's about damn time. Who would have thought that I could be so excited to play a game in a series that has intimidated me for years? Well, if the words kill me, I don't need a new world order. That's because it's Guilty Gear Strive, baby. From the very first reveal trailer, to getting my behind handed to me in the open beta, to now where I actually still don't own the game. I wanted to get it on PC, but my laptop is doo-doo, and part of my goal for next year is to build a proper PC just so I can play Guilty Gear. That being said, I have not been nearly as motivated to dive into the series as I am now, and even months after release, I am still actively following the game and keeping up with its updates and DLC. But before I ramble too much, let me actually talk about why this game takes the number 8 spot on my list this year. Hello everyone, this is Salmon Pink from the future here. In between when I first wrote this and now, I actually picked up Guilty Gear Strive on Steam since it went on sale, and decided to try running it anyways. Turns out I can actually run it on medium to high settings while not completely destroying my laptop. That being said, I'd still like to play this on better hardware in the future, but I am over the moon that I can even play it now. Thanks for listening to me real quick, and back to the video. Firstly, if we're talking purely about visual style, I truly believe that there is no other fighting game out there right now that is as eye-catching as Strive is. From the super clean character models, the breathtaking fighting arenas, the incredibly smooth wall break transitions, and the incredible visual effects used in the moves, supers, and round win screens, Strive is at the top of the fighting game chain. Let me also take a minute to point out how great the soundtrack is too. Smell of the Game, Disaster of Passion, Armor-Clad Faith, frickin' Zato's theme, where you can't even get to the best part of it during a full-time match. Holy crap, this game is full of bangers. Not only that, but what a great cast of characters too. I've actually been watching the top 8 for Strive at CEO as I write this, and I have to say that every single character is really fun to watch and hella hype. Yes, even Mei. No, there is nothing wrong with the Totsugeki. There is nothing annoying about the Totsugeki. Everyone loves the Totsugeki! But I'm even more pumped since every DLC character has been a hit so far. In this Behemoth Typhoon, Gold Lewis Dickinson swings in with the most and least specials with one move. Jacko? Mwah! I don't even need to say anything here. The entire internet is my witness for this one. Happy Chaos? Man, I have never seen anyone just shoot the game timer in the case of a timeout. What a cool dude. And wait, just now? Bikin? Oh my gosh, say it ain't so! January cannot come soon enough. I just hope that we can see my boy Johnny and best girl Dizzy into the game before the season pass ends, or hopefully with a second one. But regardless, with Granblue versus clinging to life support and my laziness to practice Tekken 7 getting the better of me, Guilty Gear Strive has got to be the #1 fighting game on my horizon right now. And if this video gets 50 likes before I build my new PC next year, I will record myself doing a Heavenly Potemkin Buster on my current laptop and upload it for you to watch. Will you counter my advance, or will I take the victory slash? Only you can decide. Heaven or hell. The game is afoot once more. After 6 years of silence and seemingly the end of the series as a whole, we have been surprised with what are possibly the best games in the Ace Attorney franchise after an excruciatingly long wait. Dai Gyakuten Saiban, the Great Ace Attorney, Adventures and Resolve have finally arrived and are just as incredible as we had hoped for so long ago. For fans of the series and new players alike, The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles tells a magnificent story of the great ancestor of the more well-known Ace Attorney, with many twists, turns, and a trail of evidence so exciting the suspense will keep you wanting more. With a setting as fresh as the turn of the 20th century itself, and a cast of the most memorable and diverse characters the series has ever seen, the crossover of Victorian-era Great Britain and Meiji period Japan sets the stage for all sorts of extravagant adventures to be had. Although, there has been one thing bothering me. The thing is...
I'll take it from here, Salmon. It seems like this is a job for the great detective Herlock Sholmes.
Sholmes? What the heck are you doing here? This is my video. I'm the one ranking the games. Didn't you see the disclaimer at the start of the...
Not anymore. For you see, none other than I have the qualifications to deduce the truth behind these videos. And when it comes to uncovering the truth, there's but one method that I employ worthy of exposing such facts.
Oh, no, wait!
Yes, it is time for none other than my logic and reasoning spectacular. Let us begin. It certainly shouldn't take a great detective to see that a certain fish has been swimming amongst these digital streams as of late. Thus, we are faced with a question. What form might these streams take? For a fish who has made videos for many years, the quality has not improved much, has it? Your video preference, Mr. Pink, leads us directly to the answer. The true nature of these videos are revealed by your love for Magic the Gathering. Yes, when you claim to love video games, your true love lies in the heart of the cards, a fact that has fueled your admiration for strategy and skill alike. In the end, your admiration became so great, in fact, that you had completely forgone creating videos for creating new commander decks.
It is true that I enjoy card games.
I believe my point has been made. The true nature of the fish on this channel is simply a creature that gave up making videos for the love of a certain card game. Now, Mr. Pink, it is plainly clear that you play all sorts of games each year. However, the only consistent uploads you have are these Top Game of the Year videos. Indeed, your thoughts weigh heavy on your shoulders. While you may lack consistency, you still do not lack creativity, which leads me to one conclusion. The lack of upload frequency has been due to your loss of time because you are so busy streaming. As a fish, you only naturally partake in streams. The strain of possibly disappointing your viewers is clearly visible in your visage.
Well, I have lost a lot of time lately.
Speak no more, for there's but one conclusion. Seeing as you are so busy with your streams, you are left exhausted with no time to create other videos. Thus concludes Herlock Sholmes' great deduction of this fishy situation.
It certainly is difficult to argue when the detective makes such compelling points. Even in the games, he is so confident and cocksure that you really do want to believe him. And for the most part, his deductions are mostly accurate, although they do need a little massaging to get down to the real truth behind the matter.
Excellent! I've been waiting for my trusty partner in deduction to step forward. Let us start again, my big friend. From the beginning of Herlock Sholmes' Logic and Reasoning Spectacular. It certainly shouldn't take a great detective to see that a certain fish has been swimming amongst these digital streams as of late. Thus, we are faced with a question. What form might these streams take? For a fish who has made videos for many years, the quality has not improved much, has it? Your video preference, Mr. Pink, leads us directly to the answer. The true nature of these videos are revealed by your love for Magic the Gathering.
While it's true that I do enjoy Magic the Gathering, and even hinted at the possibility of making videos on it in last year's Games of the Year video, there is one other card game that I've been playing for longer than Magic. The true nature of these videos are revealed by my love for Shadowverse. Why yes, I do love video games, but there is no feeling that matches that of drawing the last card you need to win the game. This is indeed a fact that has fueled my admiration for strategy and skill alike. Besides, as much as I love what I can do in Magic, I certainly haven't been making Magic videos for almost 4 years now. Sholmes, I believe your point has been found. The true nature of the fish on this channel is simply a creature that loves all kinds of games, but absolutely loves card games, especially Shadowverse.
Now, Mr. Pink. It is plainly clear that you play all sorts of games each year. However, the only consistent uploads you have are these Top Game of the Year videos. Indeed, your thoughts weigh heavy on your shoulders. While you may lack consistency, you still do not lack creativity, which leads me to one conclusion. The lack of upload frequency has been due to your loss of time because you are so busy streaming.
Sholmes does make a valid point. My upload frequency has been pretty irregular. Although, the reason for that definitely hasn't been because I'm busy streaming. In fact, I haven't streamed in over a year. My last stream was when I got my latest Super Metroid PB last September. You see, there has been one other thing that has been taking up my free time. The lack of upload frequency has been due to my loss of time because I have picked up a new hobby, model making. As a fish, I naturally enjoy the flow of where the stream of life takes me, although it is quite exciting when I try something new. However, many of the model kits and other things I've been making require a lot of time and patience. As such, I am left with less time to create my videos. Sholmes, I do believe the mystery has been solved.
Thus concludes Herlock Sholmes'
And SalmonPink's
great deduction of this fishy situation.
Well, that was certainly a collaboration I wasn't expecting. It really does go to show that no matter what your expectations are, we can all enjoy a good little mystery solving every once in a while. If you're looking for your next great adventure, why not give Great Ace Attorney Chronicles a try? I know it might not look like it's for everyone, but for the first time in the series' history, they have added a story mode if you don't want to rack your brain trying to figure out who done it, and instead just enjoy the incredible story. Whether you're itching for new puzzles to solve, or just see what Naruhodo and the gang get themselves into, Great Ace Attorney Chronicles has you covered. You know, one of my favorite things to experience when diving into a game that I'm completely new to is that feeling of discovery, wonder, and that novel sensation that overwhelms your senses as you dive into the lore, music, and world of the game. The next title on my list does this skillfully and with style in spades. Ender Lilies, Quietus of the Nights, the second game on this year's list with an overly long and complex name, but much like the prior, has depth and polish to keep you entertained for more than you may expect. Ender Lilies is a game I saw nobody talking about this year, so I hope that by the time I'm done this segment, I can convince you that it's worth your time. It's not often that a game makes me sit back and take in all my surroundings. From the very beginning, Ender Lilies makes it abundantly clear that it is a sorrowful game. You are witnessing the aftermath of the events of the story and living through the consequences of it. The world has been lost. There are few left that are even sane enough to help you. Even those who are find themselves slipping and soon will be clinging to the last straws of sanity they can scrape off the barren and beautiful land. This is where the game excels at combining world-building elements with the core gameplay, your bonds. Mechanically speaking, Ender Lilies is a 2D platform-based action RPG. It is also decently difficult, although I won't be making any comparisons to other games since Ender Lilies takes inspiration from many genres other than Souls-like. What differentiates this from other games, however, is that the main character has no way of defending herself. It is her guardian spirit that first awakens her from her slumber, who offers to protect her as she journeys through the desecrated lands. As you progress, you will meet many greater and lesser spirits that offer their power to your service, allowing you to create an arsenal of different attacks and abilities to aid in your journey. Do you prefer ranged or auto attacks? How about melee attacks? Slow and powerful, or weak and nimble? You have the option to dodge, but your recovery out of it is slightly slow since you are so young and weak. Everything in the world is trying to kill you, but yet you forge on. This brings me to my second point, how the game presents remorse. As you progress through each area, you'll see evidence of a once lively civilization that is now fallen. This is reflected beautifully in the game's art style and original soundtrack. All of the environments and music bewitchingly complement each other, sometimes in the most eerie ways. There are little details that tell of how events have played out, and of the terrible tragedies that have befallen individuals and the greater world. How could this be done so effectively while still tying these elements into the story? Simple. Through a pivotal moment in any video game, the boss fights. And while what I'm about to say isn't a spoiler, it certainly changes your perspective on the logistics of how boss fights are presented in games. None of the bosses are bad people. From the tutorial boss, all the way through to some of the more emotional encounters, every boss is a good person who fought against the plague that is eating away at the world. What has happened with them? Why must you fight them? They are your allies, and even after defeating them, they will join you as guardian spirits. So what has happened to the world where not even the protectors of the masses can stay strong? Dare I even be insightful for a moment to summarize all of this with but a simple quote from such a timeless film that has been done so well the same.
Okay, fine. You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
But before I move on, there is still one more thing I need to address. The game is hauntingly beautiful. Each area is gorgeously designed and has a somber melancholy that accompanies it. A rainy village that has lost its people. An isolated tower with a lonely flower garden at its peak. A magic college in a luminescent forest that holds a library that none will ever learn from again. If you choose to wait and rest, you can see your companion spirits wait and rest with you. The world is lost, and yet there is still beauty in every detail of it. If any of what I've said in the past couple minutes has struck a chord with you, then I can promise that Ender Lilies has something incredible in store for you. Alrighty, time for a little break and a short change of pace. You can probably tell from the length of this video, but it's really long, so I'm including this intermission where you can take a break. If you need to use the bathroom, stretch, make yourself a coffee or tea, get some more snacks, or just pause the video and finish the rest of it later. Let's do a little posture check too. You slouching in your chair? Come on now, you don't want back problems when you're older. Heck, even as I'm writing this, I just adjusted my posture because I put a lot of time into this and I don't want to wake up with back problems because I chose the lazy route. And for those of you on a couch or lying down, I guess that doesn't apply to you, but just make sure you're not straining yourself, okay? You don't want a bad back either. Good? Time for a little bit of sidetracking. Just a bit. I can already tell you that I was really holding back while writing about the games this year in the interest of actually completing this video. Heck, for the first couple here I intentionally held back a little since I knew the video would carry on way too long if I didn't. Plus, I have way too much to say about my upcoming games, so that will more than make up for it. I can vouch that much like each other year, there are numerous games on this year's list that I would absolutely love to do individual videos on. In fact, I already have 3 scripts prepared for individual game reviews for Doki Doki Literature Club, TheSalmon Files, and, surprisingly, Monster Hunter Tri. Why Tri, you might ask? I'll have to ask for your patience to wait and find out for that one. Although earlier this year, while I was finishing the script for the Tri video, there were 2 tragedies that had befallen me and has permanently delayed the completion of that one. The first was a personal health issue, or more accurately, a number of personal health issues that all occurred within a week of each other starting on my birthday earlier in 2021. I should state clearly that these are in no way related to the current pandemic, but instead with my dental, mental, and physical health respectively. The second was a 6-hour review a coworker of mine shared with me of a 1990s dating sim that was so meticulously and empathetically broke down that I had to stop and reconsider the points of my videos. The combination of these 2 factors was enough to make me halt production on them entirely. However, there is a good ending to this, I promise. Here's the good news. I'm alive, getting better, eating healthier, and more inspired than ever. Just because I put the 3 videos on hold, it doesn't mean I'll scrap them entirely. I just need a bit more time to mold them into something I can be proud of, and not publish something that I half-assed. Besides, these are things I'm passionate about, so I want to make sure I get it right and put my all into them. And as for the bad news, there is no bad news. We're trying to stay positive now. Take that, haters. Anyways, please look forward to those videos and a couple other surprises coming soon. Now, let's get back to the games. I feel like every year there comes a point where I have to face myself and list a game that everyone knows is coming. After all, why wouldn't I? I've sunk more hours into this series than almost anything else I've done in my entire life. Through the various iterations over the years, through its marvelous innovations, and even through the less favorable blunders, it still continues to be my favorite thing ever. And I wouldn't doubt it even for a second. I don't even need to say it at this point, but at this time next year, you'll be seeing a game from the same series appear on my Games of 2022 video, even though I have no clue what to expect from it. And sure, while it might only be number 5 on my list this year, its effect will carry on for much longer than a simple rankings on a top games of the year list. Heck, even now I feel like I've been lying to myself about how I feel about previous entries just to stay modest. But you can't escape from the past. You have to learn from it, grow from it, and above all, rise above it. Monster Hunter Rise. From the very first reveal trailer to this very moment, it has played a more important role than most hunters will give it credit for. The game is nearly perfect. It is a fluid and outstanding title in the series that innovates in ways that previous titles could only ever dream of. And to save some of the points for my upcoming Monster Hunter video, Here and now I will acknowledge the singular flaw the game has, and simultaneously the solution that will fix it. Monster Hunter Rise lacks an endgame. The solution to this? Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak. Rise is a base game. It technically isn't complete, even though it is. But what it does right, it does perfectly. You have gigantic locales that now have a ton of verticality to them, where you can move freely and explore with true freedom of exploration. You have monsters that new and returning hunters love. You have weapon designs that aren't just ore or bone line with a single scale or plume of a monster slapped onto it. You have exhilarating fights and challenging encounters with some of the most unique designs this series has ever seen. You even have different ways of playing with the switch scales and wirebug arts so that you can always change up how you play. But even Monster Hunter World was missing an endgame, and it was Iceborne that made it as memorable as it was. Monster Hunter Rise may not share the sheer scale of its 5th gen predecessor, and even comparatively it can even be described as lackluster. Monster Hunter World had content updates of titanic proportions. First, there was Deviljho, a monster still missing from Rise. Then, there was the first raid and Queen of Gold herself, Kulve Taroth. After that, everyone's new favorite, Lunastra, came swooping in. And how could we forget the legendary collaboration where, for the first time in series history, we get to fight the behemoth from Final Fantasy XIV. And to top it off, we get the Leshen and Ancient Leshen from the Witcher 3 collaboration. Not to mention all the collaboration armor and event quests. In its first content update, Rise adds 3 iconic Elder Dragons. One of has not even been in the game for over 6 years. In its second and final content update, it adds a new final boss and story ending, as well as a variant to one of the greatest monsters ever, Valstrax. Sure, it still has collaboration armor and quests, but they lack replayability that World's Endgame had. But all that's going to change when Sunbreak arrives. I'm willing to bet that Sunbreak will do for Rise what Iceborne did for World. Inject the final boost the game needs to truly become one for the history books. I cannot wait for summer of 2022, and with you all as my fellow hunters and witnesses, I shall see you once more in a year's time, where I may hopefully proclaim what I can only wish to be Game of the Year material. For now, all we can do is wait. Is what I would say, but there is one other game that fits all of the criteria I listed at the start of this part, and has an outstanding endgame without the need for an expansion. You thought I was done with this segment? Nope! I'm throwing you all back into the arena. We're only 2 cards down, so you better be ready for what comes next. And I hope you brought extra life powders, cause this quest is far from over. You think I could make this video without mentioning the game that completely caught everyone by surprise and blew all of our expectations out of the water? The game that finally gave fans all the things they've been asking for over the years, and even more? The game that even people who weren't fans of the series were playing and falling in love with. And to top it all off, the game launching simultaneously on multiple platforms so that more people could have access to play and enjoy it. Oh, and did I mention it's an RPG? My favorite genre ever? Monster Hunter Stories 2: Wings of Ruin. The game nobody expected to be even a fraction as good as it actually turned out to be. What a freaking curveball, man! Where do I even start? Stories 2 does everything right. It has a compelling narrative, an exciting battle system that is easy to learn, and has enough complexity to satisfy more experienced players. a colorful cast of heroes and villains alike, an outstanding orchestral soundtrack, a colorful and expansive world with many secrets to uncover, and all the post-game and updates you could ever ask for. What more can I say but to give it a try? There's a free demo available, and I can guarantee that once you try it out, you'll absolutely love it. While the game is a sequel to the first Monster Hunter Stories game, you don't even need the context from that game, as this one sets to tell a new story with a new cast of characters, barring a couple cameos. It has all the attention to detail that you'd expect, and what's even better is that the game doesn't even take its time to get the ball rolling. You'll be thrown into the action almost immediately, and it just gets better from there. Plus, it's really easy to pick up and play for 10 minutes, or 10 hours. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, it also has a battle system that is simple at first, but also has multiple layers and allows for more advanced strategies. There are also systems to breed monsters, transfer skills, and mix and match what you want for each monster you hatch. One last point about Stories 2 before I begin to ramble for too long. This is for all the people watching who don't play Monster Hunter. Yes, you. I know you're only half paying attention right now since you either haven't played Monster Hunter or because the game looks too childlike. Hey, come on, look at the screen for a second, okay? Try the demo for Stories 2. You don't need any context from the first game or the rest of the series to play. Just a willingness to try something new. When was the last time you tried something new? And even if you're not an RPG kind of person, I still think you should give it a try. It's not grindy at all, and there may be something just waiting to pique your interest. This game has surpassed everyone's expectations, mine included. It may just surprise you too. So what are you waiting for? Go give it a try. Okay, I get it. Watch to the end of the video first, drop me a like, and maybe hit that subscribe button, then go download the demo. Awesome. Okay, I'm trusting you. Don't let me down. Okay, full disclosure here, the next spot on my list got a huge boost in ranking from nostalgia. That being said, this game, games, do carry much more substance than solely for nostalgic purposes alone. In my number 4 spot this year, I would like to boldly declare the best Pokemon games on the Nintendo Switch. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. That's right, I said it. The best Pokemon games on the Nintendo Switch. Better than Sword and Shield, and better than Let's Go. And in order to make my point as clear as crystal, while still appealing to what you value the most, I will actually be dividing my thoughts into 2 subsections for this portion of the video. Much how like this game is split into 2 entries, I want you to pick one of the following paths and watch it while skipping the other. Each path will have its own version exclusives, but will still have the same end result. In the Diamond path, I will be reviewing and explaining why I believe these games are so good through a subjective perspective. This path will be based on my personal feelings for the games and is highly influenced by my nostalgia and history with them. In the Pearl path, I will be creating the same outcome, but approaching it in the most objective manner possible, attempting to remove all of my personal feelings and biases, and giving you a straight-cut breakdown of why these games are good, without including just personal opinions. The choice is yours. To watch the Diamond path, just wait for the timer on screen to count down to 0 and it will begin automatically. To watch the Pearl path, skip ahead to the time shown on screen and it will take you directly to it. I will also include timestamps in the video description to both sections and the resolution at the end for all my friends watching on mobile devices, or if you don't want to scroll through the video. Oh, and you're only allowed to pick one path, so make your choice now. I know some of you are going to leave a comment or tell me, hey Salmon, I actually watch both because like you can get both games in the double pack so you can play both and complete it. No, only one. This is the choose your own adventure part of the video. Do you get to start a new Pokemon game with all 3 starter Pokemon? No, you pick one and get the other 2 later. Same goes for this. Watch your chosen path, finish the rest of the video, then come back and watch the other one if you choose to do so. That can be for all the completionists watching. Okay, time to make a decision. The timer is running out. So, you've chosen Diamond, the path of nostalgia. Was it perhaps the longing you had for your memories of Sinnoh that brought you here? Or perhaps because you just prefer Diamond to Pearl? Regardless, if you are listening to this now, it means that you can feel it too. That unmistakable shiver that flows through your body. These games mean so much more than just their value as remakes. They represent a different time, when things were much simpler. When we could take risks and try new things even if they didn't work out so well. When we were younger and had the world ahead of us. When the biggest decision we ever had to make was between the 3 starters that we were offered back at Verity Lakefront. Because there is truly nothing more humbling than that same childlike wonder that first caught our hearts when we played these games many years ago. As remakes, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl have perfectly preserved the look and feel of the original games down to every last detail. Some things have been updated for functionality, such as the poke etch being moved from the bottom screen to being toggled on or off in the upper right corner, the fairy type being added for type matchups, and sadly the gaming corner being replaced with a clothing shop, but even that brings a fresh new feel to the game with certain player customization options. That being said, you will feel right at home when playing through these games. The visual aesthetic replicates the pixel-based counterpart so well, and honestly I love how it keeps the signature look but manages still to look great remastered. All of the visual elements of the original game are still present in the remakes as well. From the text box border customization options, the battle selection UI, and the cut-ins from significant trainers during battles are all present. I could go on more about the graphics, but I feel like there is a much more significant part to this path that has more emphasis on the point I'm driving home. Music. The remasters for each theme in these games are perfection itself. When the originals are so good, you only need a little emphasis on certain parts to really bring out the best of it all. That being said, when Diamond and Pearl have some of the most amazing music the series has ever heard, it's hard not to feel good when listening to them. Where are all the doubters now that we have a remix of the Lake theme? I can't hear the haters over this boppin' rival theme. Let the whiners whine while I enjoy the ultra-hype gym leader music! Oh yeah, this is the stuff of legends right here. Not even Hoen's horns can keep up with these vibes. Speaking of, let's talk about the gameplay real quick before this becomes an entire segment on the music alone. I truly feel like no other game in this series has such an interesting and fun adventure as much as Sinnoh has. You get unique parts of the game where you're partnered with another character as you navigate through an area with them. And by default, you will have double battles as your base encounters. You have the legendary Grand Underground, where you can make and decorate a secret base, mine for treasures in the simple yet incredibly addicting minigame, and now you can even catch Pokemon in little hideaways that segment the underground, giving you access to Pokemon you may not find until later, or some rare Pokemon that you may have never even had a chance to catch in the originals. Heck, my current playthrough of Brilliant Diamond, I found a Scyther and immediately added it to my team cause he's so cool. And above all else, the Pokemon that you find in the Sinnoh region are without a doubt some of the coolest in the entire franchise. Of course, the box legendary Pokemon Dialga and Palkia are really awesome, but so is Giratina. Starly's line has to be one of the most iconic amongst bird Pokemon. Shinx's line is legendary on its own. And the fan favorites of Rotom, Lucario, and Garchomp, also Gen 4 staples. The list goes on. Here, even many of the new baby Pokemon like Budew and Happiny that expand the lines of previous favorites, as well as all of the new final evolutions that are even cooler than their previous counterparts, like Rhyperior, Honchkrow, Electivire, and Magmortar. They are all just so freaking awesome! One final thing I want to bring up is the fact that these games were made with the intention of appealing to nostalgia, rather than going for a more updated or realistic look. Studio ILCA has wonderfully preserved the appearance, sound, and feel of these classic games we love so much, and now re-immortalized them on the Nintendo Switch for generations to come. They carry the legacy that raised us, and now are raising a new generation. It doesn't even matter if you haven't played the originals, or even if you haven't played a Pokemon game before. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl are meant for the young and the young at heart. They seek to bring you to a spectacular world filled with incredible creatures. The music will move and inspire you, and mostly, the adventure will stay with you for a lifetime. Thank you for choosing the Diamond Path. Please proceed to the conclusion of this part by skipping forward to the time shown on screen or by clicking the timestamp in the description. Do not let the video play out or it will proceed to the Pearl path of the video. Remember what I said earlier, you can come back and watch that later. But for now, I'll see you in the conclusion in just a few seconds. So, you've chosen Pearl, the path of logic. Was it rational thought and the need for factual conclusions that brought you here? Or was it simply because you prefer Pearl to Diamond? Regardless, if you are listening to this now, it means that you're ready for some logic and reasoning. Sorry, Sholmes, I'll be tackling this one solo. In order to properly demonstrate why their inclusion on my list was necessary, I will be assessing them through three major criteria: their entertainment benefit in isolation, their value and quality as remakes, and a comparison between them and the other major Pokemon games on the Switch. That being said, let's begin with the first topic. I'm going to start by breaking down what you can do in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. You have a fairly large region to explore filled with looping and winding routes, a plethora of unique areas that make use of the topography of the region quite naturally without feeling forced next to each other, routes that are dotted with puzzles to solve, trainers to battle, and plenty of Pokemon to catch. The game has a respectable main story that is engaging and driving from the very beginning, as well as plenty of post-game to keep you busy as well. As far as things that aren't battling and exploring are concerned, the games also include a number of mini-games, most if not all of them being able to play with friends. Poffin making, Pokemon contests, and the Grand Underground are some of the most notable ones. As far as the average player is concerned, the games themselves have plenty of things to do. Encourage places to explore off the main path to give players the agency rather than forcing them down a linear story, and a diverse cast of Pokemon and NPCs that are quite distinctly unique. One thing these games do quite well is balancing difficulty while still keeping them relatively beginner-friendly. Experience is divided amongst Pokemon in your party by default, but all of the notable battles, including your rival, gym leaders, the Elite Four and Champion, the post-game, and especially the Champion rematch, are significantly more challenging than the average trainer on each route, where you would find them respectively. There are plenty of opportunities to fight extra trainers or skip them entirely to keep the challenge intact. To keep the game fresh and assist with balance, it has included the Fairy type update. However, it is not intrusive to the gameplay at large since there are not many Fairy type Pokemon in the game to begin with. All that being said, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl have an excellent delegation of things to keep the player busy for more than the price of admission. Next, I'd like to evaluate these games and how they qualify as remakes. In a PR announcement from ILCA, the studio in charge of the remakes, it was stated that the original games have been faithfully reproduced and colorfully revitalized for Nintendo Switch. The sense of scale of the towns and routes has been carefully preserved, and fans who played the original games will recognize many familiar places. These games are updated with the easy-to-understand, player-friendly conveniences introduced in recent Pokemon Core series video games, in addition to up-and-close and personal Pokemon battle scenes. When we take a look at the games in comparison to their original counterparts, the statement holds true to the fullest regard. As opposed to recreating the games from the ground up with a new and updated look as other Pokemon remakes have done, Studio ILCA decided to mimic the sprite-based style with a soft but exaggerated short 3D visual style. When comparing the world, the layout of the maps are near identical, with buildings and environments being replicated to scale in the remakes. This was a bold move, considering how other remakes in the series have taken lively new looks to try and draw players in with a more realistic style and proportions. However, the remakes do not abandon these altogether. During battles, the full model of both the player and the opposing trainer is shown in great detail. Seeing how this was similar in the originals for the player and trainer cut-ins, it makes sense to do so in the remakes and certainly adds a lot of personality to the more significant battles that you'll have. One of the things that, while changed almost the least amongst updates in the remakes, has one of the most impactful effects is the music in the games. The original scores remain near unchanged, save for some chromatic flourishes in certain arrangements. Instead of using musical instrument digital interfaces, the remakes opt for a mixed medium of traditional instrumentation and digital production, giving the original soundtrack a bit of a kick while still sounding so incredibly similar to the originals. You probably didn't even notice that I just switched to the original Diamond and Pearl soundtrack of your rival's battle theme. The remakes of the music are that good.
Bingo!
The final point I'd like to cover now is how Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl compare to the existing Pokemon titles on the Nintendo Switch. Of course, this point may be the most difficult to prove since opinions on these games will vary from person to person, but preferences are founded on idiosyncratic values and not on factual basis. But I still believe that these remakes excel above the others on function alone. Let's take a closer look, shall we? Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl are near-perfect remakes of their 2007 counterparts, and around the time, the Pokemon franchise was in a bit of a golden era with how well their games were doing. Following the successes of the first remakes, Fire Red and Leaf Green, as well as the widely loved Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, Diamond and Pearl outsold all of those, as well as the subsequent generation of Black and White. To this day, these Sinnoh entries are some of the best-selling Pokemon games of all time, falling behind just the original first and second generations, respectively. This can, without a doubt, establish the importance of the games for many. That being said, how do they compare to the Let's Go games? Being targeted to the more casual fans of Pokemon, Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee aim to bring the worldwide phenomenon of Pokemon Go to consoles. And to an extent, it does the job well by having a much more casual gameplay loop. However, where Let's Go fails in comparison to Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl is in Kanto Burnout. As yet another soft reboot of the first generation of Pokemon games, it was clearly evident that the fans were still yet longing for a more original title and not for another remake of Generation 1. That being said, the Let's Go games are still very good and a lot of fun. But while some may claim recency bias for this comparison in particular, seeing how Diamond and Pearl have not seen remakes up until now, there is still no comparison in terms of amount of content in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl compared to Let's Go. I've already previously stated how expansive these games are and all of the optional content they have as well. And when the quality of the content reflects back even better on the history of the franchise, the gameplay simply speaks for itself. Now to tackle the mountain of Sword and Shield. Being the progenitors of the 8th generation of Pokemon, and introducing so many new features to the series, it's hard to argue with these widely loved games. Even to this day, they are the 5th best-selling games on the Nintendo Switch, only falling behind to the other legendary titans of Breath of the Wild, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Animal Crossing, and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Sure, I ragged on them quite a bit in my video 2 years ago. Holy crap! It's been 2 years since Sword and Shield already? Where's the time gone? They still feel brand new. Ugh, please don't tell me this is what it's like to get old. I feel old just thinking about that now. Okay, back to the point. Resuming that thought, yes. I may have taunted the games quite a bit in my top games of 2019 video, but ultimately, I did have a lot of fun with them. However, this isn't about Sword and Shield, it's about Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. While I may have praised the former quite a bit, there is one simple thing that keeps the latter stronger than ever. That's right, the content. This time around, it's more so the quantity, especially considering that Sword and Shield were some of the shortest games in the entire series. And everyone I know who played it can agree with me. This was slightly fixed with the expansion pass, which added 2 new content packages, but seeing what they added definitely does not inspire confidence for me to pick up the game again. That being said, as mentioned earlier, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl have a much more focused story and more alternative content, and a more exciting post-game, with the battle area and all of the legendary hunting almost acting as DLC while still being included in the game. This compared to Sword and Shield, which only had 2 legendary Pokemon in the base game to catch. And while more were added with the expansion pass, it may have been too late as many of the players had moved on to other games already. All in all, it's still difficult to say, but you can't argue with value. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl are the clear winners in this situation, as they offer so much more for the player than Sword and Shield do with a full game and an expansion. It just works. Thank you for choosing the Pearl Path. Please proceed to the conclusion of this part by waiting for the timer on screen to run out. Or, you are free to use the timestamp in the video description if you don't feel like waiting. I understand. Just interrupt me already and get on with it. Oh, and do feel free to check out the Diamond Path after you're done watching the rest of the video, but only after you're done watching the rest of the video. Get it? Got it? Good. That being said, I'll see you in the conclusion in just a few seconds. At this point, I believe I've written and talked more about Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl than I have for the entire script of my very first Top Games of the Year video. That alone should be more than enough to convince you that the games are worthy of their inclusion here. Regardless of the path you chose, by now it should be more than evident that these are games that everyone can enjoy, with so much to do that you'll be busy for a good long while. And whether they appeal to your heart or your mind, they certainly do carry that polish and perfection that we should expect from a Pokemon game today. I am still having a blast in my first playthrough of Brilliant Diamond, and eventually plan on doing a Nuzlocke in a copy of Shining Pearl in the near future as well. I just hope that when Pokemon Legends Arceus drops early next year, we can expect the same level of production that we have come to expect from the outstanding duo that is Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. So, normally I'd wait till the honorable mention section before my next break, but this video is getting longer and longer with each section that I write, so I'm including a second intermission here for both of us. Much like before, if you need to pause and use the bathroom, get some water or stretch, that's all good. Heck, if you've made it this far, then I already want to say thanks for watching this long. But also that I definitely have saved the best for last, and you are in for such a treat for the top 3. But do feel free to take a break if you need to. In this intermission, I'd like to quickly cover another game that came out this year that, while it didn't make my top 10 or honorable mentions, I have still played every day since its launch. And that game is Princess Connect Redive. This next part you're going to hear is a little bit of an unscripted thing that I just did when I was doing my dailies, so enjoy. Hey everyone, Salmon Pink here again, recording directly from my phone. Hi Christina, you want to talk for a little bit? Right now we're in the second intermission of the video, and I thought I'd just run through a bit of Princess Connect with you. Just, it's just a regular gacha you go through. You have your regular roles here. In fact, I think at the end of this segment we'll do a little roll for the current banner, because I haven't actually got this unit yet. And I figure I could roll a little bit on the video. But I'd just like to show you a little bit about the game. You collect units like any other gacha. They're all sort of empowered by your abilities as the Princess Knight. You've got a bunch of different fun modes. You've got a main quest with a story and a hard mode as well. One thing I really like in this game is that you can use the skip tickets and just get your dailies done really fast, so you don't actually need too much investment in time to play the game. I'm definitely really busy with work and a lot of other things, so it's nice even just at the end of the day to kill 10 minutes, play a little bit. There's a grotto where you can where you can get a just a good stuff, experience potions, mana to upgrade your units. And it's really fun. The soundtrack is really good. I love all the designs of the characters. Pecorine is by far my favorite. You can get these nice illustrations of them. See if I can get it full. That are sort of done in like a soft live 2D. And it's really fun. We're gonna do one quest real quick here. But then we'll go right to the summoning, because I don't want this segment to drag on too long. And if you're using the bathroom or grabbing some snacks or some tea, it's probably a good time. So we're going to do this quest here. It's the next hard quest I have to do. This is my usual team for just going at it, but we'll see how it goes. I'll actually slow down too, because for each of the specials that the characters use, called the Union Bursts, they have a nice little animation for them. Like that. And as the game goes on, they definitely get a lot more extravagant. But it's fun. I've currently only got it set to play animations once per day, because it will take a lot of time the more you do that. gonna turn off auto right here for the boss battle coming up. Each stage is 3 waves, and yeah, it's really, really fun. I definitely enjoy it a lot. And I think I can turn auto back on right over here just because we're at the end of the stage. We've done pretty well. My Nozomi got knocked right to the back there. And oh, look at that. I actually lost a unit. So unfortunately I won't be getting 3 stars on this stage, but that's okay. I can always come back and do it later. But with that, the stage is complete. So unfortunately I lost a unit and didn't get 3 stars, which is a bit of a shame, but I won't re-record it. That kind of stuff happens. Let's just go right to the gacha. We'll do a couple lucky pulls because I'm recording. See if I can't get New Year's Hiyori. Alright, let's get to it. That's a good sign there. Oh, we've got 2 3 stars. Who could they be? Would you look at that? Man, you know, as you saw earlier, I did, I think, 80 rolls prior, and I still hadn't got her. And, yeah, it seems like it's just too much of a coincidence that I roll her while I'm recording, so I'm definitely gonna keep this one saved. And who's our second 3-star? Oh, did someone ask for a private lesson? Hello there, Io, another character I don't have. Well, I might need to censor a bit of this because I'm not sure how much I can get away with. But, yeah, needless to say, a nice pull as well. So yeah, not 1 but 2 new characters. I am feeling pretty lucky. That was a pretty good roll, all things considering. But yeah, this is my little distraction for every day. Sometimes I play it on my break at work, or sometimes just at night. It's really, really fun. A lot of characters are really cute, and it's honestly just really, really generous. Like up at the top, you see I have 81,000 gems to roll with when a roll is only 1,500. And I already have most of the characters. The only ones I'm missing are Tomo and 2 Halloween units, but I can probably just get those during reruns. And honestly, it's fun. It's got nice little anime segments as well that are tied in with the story. Yeah, and it's just great. It is really generous to the player. It's really fun. And yeah, I've been rambling on for much too long, so I want to thank you for listening to me on this short little intermission, and let's get back to the games. I hope you're ready because the top 3 is just absolutely insane, and I've been waiting so long to share these with someone. Like, I am going insane. So let's get right into it, and thanks for joining me on this little excursion through Princess Connect. You know, every so often a game comes out that completely flips the script. You're drawn in from the aesthetic, the gameplay, the music, or for any other reason, and you begin to play. It's quite fun. You can definitely see yourself wanting to play more, and you do. It gets better and better, and the more you play, the more you want to discover everything the game has to offer. So you strategize. You try and figure out the best way to progress and unlock all the secrets. you develop a strategy and end up with a game-winning combo. And just when you thought it was over, the game does a complete 180 and shows you that you were never in control to begin with. You never had any choice at all. This happened because the game let you do it. It decided that it would grant you a chance. It tossed you the proverbial bone. And everything you've ever believed in has been completely reversed. Inscription is a card game. It has both roguelike and deck-building elements that are meticulously sewn together with a wonderful horror theme. You make your way through various encounters as you progress on a map towards your end goal. In this sense, it shares some similarities with other games like Slay the Spire. However, Inscription has taken its own spin on the idea by fully immersing you in the world that you are playing through various means. This card game that you are playing is played on a table, and the person sitting across from you is facilitating the game and acting as a dungeon master of sorts as they guide you through your encounters. What's more, they will don certain masks to act as other characters to even further immerse you in the brilliant world. Part of what makes Inscription so incredible is its dedication to the narrative. Although you may play through a round and fail, it is a roguelike, so you can always just try again. But that's the thing. The game remembers. When you reach a game over, you are compelled to select attributes from the various cards you have collected on your journey to meld into your own death card, a card representing you, the player, even signed by your hand. This card will show up in some form in your next playthrough, and the cycle repeats itself. Death allows you to create even stronger death cards, and eventually you will become strong enough to get through and beat the final boss. But nothing I've said so far has been all that unique. Right? I mean, sure, the game has an incredible look and feel to it. It certainly is visually unique, that's for sure. What could possibly be in this game that makes it stand out from not only other games in the genre, but amongst my list this year? For all my praise of the other games on my list this year, I haven't really said anything that makes this game stand out all that much in comparison. But for starters, the footage you're seeing right now isn't even from my copy of the game, but from a public demo that I had to download separately because showing you footage from where I am in the game is mega spoiler territory. That's because when you beat the game, you'll Inscription is a card game. It has both roguelike and deck-building elements that are meticulously sewn together with a wonderful horror theme. You make your way through various encounters as you progress on a map towards your end goal. In this sense, it shares some similarities with other games like Slay the Spire. However, Inscription has taken its own spin on the idea by making you able to stand up from the table and move around the room in which the game is played. There are various items scattered around the dilapidated cabin, and you can interact with a number of things in it. You may pick up on certain clues hidden in the cabin that may indicate that you might be able to figure out what's going on, or even break free. You see, there are 3 sentient cards that assist in telling the story, and will conspire together with you to help you escape the cabin. And it seems like with all of you working together, you might actually have a chance to escape. Inscription is a card game. It has both roguelite and deck-building elements that are hauntingly sewn together with a terrifying horror theme. Do not look up anything for this game. Do not watch playthroughs online. Play the game. Be amazed at what it does. Beat the game. And when you are done, only then you will understand. Because the game does not play how you think it will play. The game does not play how it looks. The game doesn't even begin until
Inscription is not what you think it is. It is deeply disturbing and will put you in uncomfortable situations. You will question every moment and eternally wonder what you are actually experiencing or even playing. You think you will beat the game, but you will not. You think you will progress, but it will pull you back and drag you to the depths of despair. You are not prepared for the twists and terrors that will await.
Hey everyone, Salmon Pink here, and today I have a real special video for you. I know normally around this time of the year I release a video talking about my favorite games of the year, but I've completely scrapped that since there's only one game I need to talk about. Inscription. I've been playing it all year, and we all know how great that game is. I mean, can you believe that even after going through the after beating the game for the first time, the completely different from when you beat the and will be guiding you in, but you have to escape again, and it seems like, and then the game will reset for the game. Oh my gosh, there is so much to talk about here. That being said, let's get right into it. The nausea lie. Pretending to be human, though getting close. Trick and deceive, and then eliminate one victim at a time until nobody remains. You are part of a crew of a drifting spaceship that is facing a mysterious threat to humanity. The nausea. They disguise themselves as humans, and the only way to eliminate the threat is to put them into cold sleep via majority vote before the ship begins the warp sequence. Who are your allies? Who are your enemies? Who can you trust? All this and more make up what isn't just my number 2 spot on the list, but also the game that nearly stole the game of the year for me, Nausea. So, while I definitely had a lot of fun writing all the gimmicks for the other games on my list this year, like the one you just saw for Inscription and the Choose Your Own Review segment for Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, I want to keep this part as real and genuine as possible, because if there's anything on my list this year that I want you to immediately check out and play, it is this game. Yes, even over my game of the year this year, I value it that highly. One of my favorite kinds of feedback for these videos are people who tell me about a game they've never heard about that looks really interesting. This is that game, and I really hope you actually give it a go once you're done watching the video, because not only did it far surpass my expectations, but it's set a new baseline for my expectation of story-based games, so let's dive right in. One other thing real quick, this is the spelling of the game's name, Gnosia. Now, I'm mostly sure this is pronounced Nosia, and not Gnosia or Nosia. I may be fluent in English since it's my native language, but English is still a dumb language nonetheless, and none of the rules for pronunciation, conjugation, or whatever are internally consistent, so I could be wrong. For the purpose of this review, I will continue to call it Nosia, but if I end up being wrong for that, my apologies. Nosia is quite simple, really. You wake up on a spaceship one day, and the computer's detection systems have alerted the crew of the presence of a Nosia on the ship, but cannot identify which of the crew members is infected. They are an unknown life form that have disguised themselves as another crewmate, and it's up to you and everyone else to figure out who it is. Every day, you'll discuss with the other crew members who should be put into cold sleep before the ship warps, as that is the one weakness the Nosia have: extreme cold temperatures. However, if the Nosia is not one selected for the cold sleep, they will have the opportunity to kill another crew member when the ship warps. The cycle repeats daily until either all the Nosia have been put into cold sleep, or the crew becomes more than half Nosia. The rules are pretty simple and easy to understand, but the more you play, the more complex the interactions will get. The game starts small with about 6 players, with one of them being Nosia, but will gradually increase to a maximum of 15 players with 4 Nosia. You will also be introduced to various roles that can be assigned to players to increase the level intensity to the games. You have the engineer, who can investigate one player other than themselves each night and report to the group as being Nosia or human. You also have the doctor, who can report whether or not the person selected for cold sleep was indeed Nosia or just a regular human. There's also the guardian angel, who can pick one person each night to save from a Nosia attack. There are a number of other roles, including ones that introduce completely new win or loss conditions separate from the Nosia taking over or being put into cold sleep. But to keep some of the surprises, well, a surprise, I'll let you play the game to find out for yourself. But here's where the game starts to get interesting. It's in its storytelling through the game's mechanics. Nosia plays out as part visual novel, part ultimate werewolf, part detecting who the imposter is among us, and part RPG? That's right, at the end of each game, you are awarded experience points based off of how well you did, and you can spend those points to level up various traits that will make you more proficient in future games. Logic makes it easier for you to convince others that you're right, while intuition allows you to pick up on other people's lies and suspicious behaviors. Charm makes you more amicable, and thus less likely to be selected for cold sleep, while stealth makes it harder for others to pick up on your own malicious intent and makes the Nosia less likely to target you. As you level up these skills, you'll also unlock new commands to use both in and outside of discussions. You can start forming alliances with other crew members, or ask everyone to say whether they're human or not, and catch who's lying. What's really fun is that each of the other characters also have their own stats, as well as the commands available to them, so they will be making alliances and doing their best to find out who the Nosia is as well. Round after round, all of the roles are shuffled around, so you can never be sure who to trust and who just might stab you in the back. However, by far the most interesting thing the game does is how it tells the overarching narrative through successive gameplay loops. I did say the game is part visual novel. The first distinction here is that after voting who goes into cold sleep, but before you go to the next day, you are given the opportunity to talk with one other person on the ship. Depending on the conditions, roles, and seemingly a million other factors, anything could happen. As more characters are introduced, and you slowly learn how everyone got onto the ship and who they were before this unfortunate circumstance came to be. Secondly, while a full round will take you anywhere from 5 to 25 minutes, each new game will be part of your character looping back to the start of the encounter. Interestingly enough, one other character in the game is aware that the world is looping, where you are forever forced to repeat this cruel and unusual loop of life and death, and you two will often talk about what has happened in previous loops and what you can do to possibly stop it. What's more interesting, as you play, you will gradually unlock the ability to set the parameters on your games that include the number of players, number of nausea, available roles, your starting role, and more. There was one time when I started a smaller game and pointed out a certain character was missing, to which I was told that there was no such person who was ever on the ship to begin with. What has been toying with this game's reality? That brings me to the characters, which I can't believe I've gone on for this long without talking about the characters. Including yourself, the game has a cast of 15 main characters. As alluded to earlier, anyone can fill any role each time a new loop starts. That means even you can be a nausea, but more on that later. All of the NPCs form a pretty ragtag team of weirdos, but each and every one of them is incredibly unique, deeply interesting, and has so many secrets to uncover. As you play, their profile page will be updated to fill in their history and also the part they play in the greater story of the game. Some of my favorite characters are Comet, Setsu, Gina, Jonas, Shigemichi, and SQ. What's even better is that the game will remember who you like to hang out with and actively change up what events happen during each of the loops to show you more events related to the characters you like. I can confirm this after convincing one of my coworkers to get the game and hearing completely different experiences of how the story played out for them. They hinted to an event that they experienced, or I hadn't, where Kukrushka and Remnon were given certain roles that I had not encountered at all, which leads me to confirm that the game's non-linear storytelling is unique for each person who plays it. How incredible is that? In fact, it is advantageous to pay attention to each of the characters and their personality traits as you learn them, as it helps for in-game discussions and deductions. I'd like to share an anecdote of one of my loops with you all to further cement this fact. On my 30-second loop in the first day of discussions, someone asked the engineer to step forward and reveal themselves. Shigemichi declared that he was the engineer, to which immediately after, Comet refuted that she was in fact the engineer. On an earlier playthrough, I would have had doubts and maybe wanted to see what the others thought before trusting either of them. But having played through 31 loops prior, I had vital information that would aid me in uncovering the truth. Comet was excellent at detecting when people were lying. I had tried lying to her in a previous loop, and she caught on without a single hesitation. However, while being outstanding at perceiving lies, Comet is a terrible liar herself. I immediately knew that she was telling the truth, that she was indeed the engineer, or I would have spotted her lying. If your intuition stat is high enough, the game will even give you a clear visual clue to show that a character is lying. In a round of 15 players and 4 nausea, this was a huge advantage, as I had managed to convince the group that Comet could be trusted and that Shigemichi was lying. Shigemichi was voted into cold sleep. I knew that the remaining nausea would probably be targeting Comet to reduce the amount of information given to the group, given that she was proven to be the real engineer. I was the guardian angel that loop, and knowing that I could trust Comet, I decided to protect her that night. No one was killed from a nausea attack that night. I had successfully defended Comet. Day 2, 14 crew members with 3 nausea amongst them. We ended up winning that round. That feeling when a plan goes, well, all according to Keikaku, really is like nothing else. For a single-player game, nausea heavily invokes a huge spectrum of emotions from the player, most of which will come with a surprise. There are times you'll be so close to uncovering the truth, only for the rest of the crew to deem you suspicious for trying so hard to gain trust. Or possibly being asked to form an alliance, only to be backstabbed by the same character 4 rounds in a row. Yes, that happened to me. I played the odds and got played myself. Even in the rounds where you play as the nausea, sometimes it hurts to have to kill the characters you've grown to love being around. The banter greatly differs depending on what your objective is, and it's truly wicked going from being killed by the nausea on the last round of voting to taking the winning kill so you can take over as the nausea. Victory can be bittersweet, but losses can be even more memorable than wins. Will you be caught making an emotional decision, or can you find your way to the truth? One other thing I'd like to touch upon real quick is the game's original soundtrack. It has a wide array of different tracks to perfectly set the mood and tone for whatever events may be happening. From the most soothing and serotonin-inducing modal tones, to suspenseful and stressful drum and bass, to the most shocking reveal drops that will send shivers through your whole body. Not to mention that the very best track only plays when you are saving the game and deciding who to visit for the night, and it sounds sublime. Every single track is a frickin' mood, and I am here for all of it. Again, if there's any game on my list this year that I want you to go out and get, it's Nausea. Tell me the stories of your successes and failures, of who you partnered with and who betrayed you. Who is your favorite character? Have you caught on to their tendencies and habits? Think you have what it takes to face the greatest threat in the universe and come out alive? I cannot wait to hear from you all, truly. So please, go get yourself a copy of this game and experience all the excitement, suspense, and thrills just as I have. You can thank me later. We meet once again. This is Salmon Pink from the future, everybody. It seems the longer this video takes to edit, the more I need to add in some post-production content. As of last year, Nausea was only available on the Nintendo Switch, although a couple days ago I got a notification that it was finally launched on Steam. Now, none of you have an excuse not to get it. You don't even get to say that your computer is old or has bad specs, since the game has literally no requirements to run other than 1 GB of storage available. No excuses. Get on that, people. We're almost there. You still with me? There have been some incredible games on my list this year, and hopefully there's been a couple that are either new or interesting to you that you want to check out. And before I get to my game of the year, there's going to be a couple more that I'd like to run by you that I couldn't get to for one reason or another, but still deserve an honorable mention.
Bingo!
Here we go. Kena Bridge of Spirits. This is one that I am incredibly sad that I couldn't get to just due to hardware limitations, but the world and feel of it are just incredible. I truly anticipate the day I can just sit back under a blanket with a cup of hot chocolate while I explore the beautiful world in this game. Shoutouts to Ember Lab because you have completely stolen my heart with this one. Shadowverse Champions Battle. Or its alternative title, I can't believe it's not Yu-Gi-Oh! All jokes aside, the game is much better than you might think. It has a pretty fun story that accompanies a much more temperate version of Shadowverse. If you've ever played any card games as a kid or want a fun strategy card game, give it a try. It's a lot more fun than it looks, and it really takes you back to the good old days of card games. Voice of Cards, The Isle Dragon Roars. This is one that definitely surprised me. To this point, I've only played the demo, but I'm really impressed with how the game replicates the tabletop feeling in the mechanics of the gameplay and exploration. I may have to get to this game in the early months of 2022, as I'm running dry with RPGs that are keeping me busy. And I've also been a lot more into the tabletop stuff lately, so this one is definitely scratching that itch. Scarlet Nexus. Oh, it seems like another common trend of my videos is to miss a major anime-inspired game of the year for one reason or another. Jeez, this one looks like a lot of fun, and I'm such a sucker for how it looks. I really need to get my new PC built or a PS5 so I can start playing this one too. Tales of Arise. Hey everyone, Future Salmon here again. I actually got my hands on a copy of this game during my editing of the video, so I scrapped the quick overview I'd previously written, and instead here's a quick little actual review now that I've played the game for a little bit. In the latest entry in the Tales series, I have to say I'm really impressed. It just looks and feels beyond belief. I absolutely love the visual effect that makes the world of the game just pop out, almost like a comic book. Combat is really fun too, with a ton of combos and skills to weave in and out of your attacks. I honestly wish I got this just a tad earlier, as I do feel it deserves a spot on my list this year. And I can promise you that as soon as this video goes live, I'll probably be playing more of it, because I am way too behind on it. Ah! Shin Megami Tensei 5. Did someone mention another RPG that I don't have time for? That's what I call a joke I've heard 69,420 times. Jokes aside, I'm really excited for SMT5 as everything I've seen for it has been really, really good. I promise I'll get to it soon. Nier Replicant, version 1.22474487139. Yoko Taro does it again! Although my stubborn ass wants to get it on my new PC and not on a PS4. I know, I'll stop mentioning it and actually get to building it. But damn, I am ready to be broken again. Looking back, I kinda shafted Nier Automata in my 2017 video. Although at that point, I had not completed all the endings in the game, so it hadn't quite hit me as hard. That being said, the game is an absolute masterpiece, and I am forever a changed person having played it now. I only wish I could do the same with Replicant, and eventually the Drakengard series. Only time may afford my further emotional baggage. Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker. You know, I couldn't have an honorable mention section without mentioning the absolutely legendary Final Fantasy XIV and the new Endwalker expansion. Yes, I actually started my free trial, and while I'm nowhere near any of the new content, I have been really enjoying it so much more than another game I play on the daily. That's right, the time has come for me to honorably discharge a game from my list last year. Genshin Impact, your services are no longer needed, as I have found a game, community, and development team that won't disappoint me or treat me poorly. The number 2 spot on my list for 2020 now belongs to Final Fantasy XIV. Sorry Genshin, maybe don't take a dump on your player base and expect them to keep loving your game. It honestly just gets better and better every day. I'm learning so much new about 14 and the world. Also, how could I disappoint Yoshi P when he's poured his heart and soul into making this game? Not only that, but the sound team has already captured my heart. Many of you have probably recognized that I have used a ton of music from 14 in my video this year, and I will gladly plug the Primals here because their music is just so incredible. It has sparked so much joy, wonder, and excitement just from me listening to it. Speaking of, I am on the Primal server in North America if one day I end up playing with any of you. And that's all for the honorable mentions. The time has come for the game you've all been waiting for. It started with a simple distress signal, And now it has come to this. Nobody saw it coming. Nobody expected it. And now, in the depths of despair, on an unknown planet, lost and with a hazy memory, you are faced with the one emotion that drives you forward into uncharted territory in the hopes of escaping alive. Dread. To call this game the underdog of the year would be doing it a disservice, as it actively is pushing the entire genre it founded while keeping the core values that helped establish it. Metroid Dread is the final mainline entry in the Metroid series that completes the story of Samus Aran after a saga spanning 25 years. It is a true expression of gratitude towards the fans of the series who have so patiently supported it for so long, and a project over 15 years in the making. And, above all else, my game of the year for 2021. Where do I even start? I could honestly talk for hours about all that I love about Metroid Dread, and how it perfectly creates that feeling invoked by its very own title. One of the things that I love about games that have a horror theme to them is how they can incorporate that feeling of reluctance and ambivalence into the core gameplay. For a series like Metroid, which has always had both subtle and deliberate forms of terror, this can sometimes be difficult as the games prioritize adventure and exploration as part of their key gameplay loop. But Dread does it so naturally. Environmental storytelling has always been a huge part of the Metroid series, and much like previous entries, Dread has very carefully crafted environments to facilitate the story it is so masterfully concluding. Many may recall the more explicit forms of horror in previous games, such as the Space Pirates, the Metroids themselves, or the cosmic horror-inspired Fantoon. And Dread does not shy away from having its own share of nightmare-inducing creatures, ranging from the creepy, crawly enemies to its own Lovecraftian abomination. All across the environments are little stories that build up the world so deceptively. Pieces of machinery that have been taken over or destroyed by something. A dark cave with glowing appendages moving around inside it. Or even a steel bulkhead where you can see dents appearing in real time of something to try and break out and get you, or possibly trying to escape from an even bigger threat chasing it. Metroid Dread so expertly achieves what many games can only dream of doing well: create a world where it can balance the gameplay with horror. Allow me to dive slightly deeper into this topic. One of the most stress-inducing segments of the game are the sequences that feature the new enemy, the Emmy. Right from the earliest parts of the game to the very end, there are parts in each area that are segmented from the rest and contain an Emmy robot. They are faster than you. They are stronger and more agile than you. What they are doing here and why they have gone rogue, I will leave for you to figure out for when you play. But navigating these areas is highly perilous, as an encounter with one provides only a tiny window to escape, or it's game over. These areas are dark, foggy, and contain branching paths. Every step you take makes noise that will alert the Emmy to your presence, so the player is incentivized to get through as fast as they can. But seeing how they are impervious to Samus's normal weaponry, sometimes you'll have to hide to avoid being captured. This cat and mouse dynamic is incredibly satisfying, and even failed attempts will get your blood pumping. Some puzzles within these areas will also create a lot of noise, so the balance between evading capture and progressing will make for a very tense feeling. You may learn and adapt as you play, but Dread will continually challenge the mental fortitude of players by constantly throwing twists and turns in the terrifying situations it puts you in. Of course, I need to move on to gameplay for this. Dread was developed by Mercury Steam, the same company that made Samus Returns back in 2017. A game that even I severely underrated back in my top games of 2017 video. You can tell that the foundation for Dread's core gameplay was being tested with Samus Returns, as much of how Samus moves, as well as her melee counter and her free aiming, have been brought over. Movement and exploration is fluid and quick, and even combat is fast-paced. There are a great variety of new and returning abilities that Samus has access to in order to gain greater advantage in both exploration and combat. Additionally, there are a myriad of puzzles that are incredibly fun to solve. One thing that I encountered during my first playthrough of the game was a puzzle that required the Shine Spark. I found my own solution to the puzzle, but when watching a couple speedruns of the game, I found out that there were two other solutions to the same puzzle that I hadn't even thought of. This remains consistent for a number of the major puzzles in the game, and is honestly quite impressive. Allowing this kind of agency when solving these puzzles is one of the best things you could give a player, which also happens to be a fundamental aspect of the Metroid series and the Metroidvanias in general. Even one of the new base movement options the player is given, Samus's Slide, becomes an integral part of navigating the different areas, solving puzzles, and even a technique in speedruns to bypass certain areas that you would not normally have access to. Dread may be a simple game to pick up, but it offers complexity and intricacies that are by far some of the most impressive I have seen for a long time. One other thing I'd like to cover before wrapping this segment up is how it feels like a miracle that we even have this game today. Dread was conceived by Metroid producer Yoshio Sakamoto shortly after the release of Metroid Fusion in 2002. It was initially developed for the Nintendo DS, but the result was not to the satisfaction of Sakamoto-san. Between 2005 and 2008, it was developed multiple times, but the hardware limitations were holding the game back. Later, in 2007's Metroid Prime 3 Corruption, there is an Easter egg that the player can find stating that Metroid Project Dread is nearing the final stages of completion. Many fans thought that this was a message from the developers that the long-teased Metroid Dread would be released soon, possibly on the up-and-coming Nintendo 3DS as a launch title. Seeing how this message came from a game in the Prime series that Retro Studios worked on, they denied any relation and stated that it was just a coincidence. However, the text was altered in the Japanese release of that game later that year to state that it was a Dread class turret being completed. This is interesting in two regards. The first being a bit of a deflecting swat to any fans who may have caught on a little too early, and the second, all this time later, is how the EMMIs in Dread function as mobile turrets to study and contain the X-Parasite, similar enough to a Dread class turret. According to Sakamoto, the game was again redeveloped in the 2010s for the 3DS, but once again, the hardware could not produce the results they had originally envisioned for the game. Only after partnering with Mercury Steam to recreate Samus Returns Metroid 2 was the project fully revived. In a development history video, Sakamoto states that,
また諦めることになりました。正直この企画を諦めることになるかなと思ってたんですが、3DS のサムスリターンズを共同開発したマーキュリースティームエンターテインメントがすごく優秀なチームだったんです。技術力は高いしセンスもいいし、なんといってもメトロイドというゲームの理解が半端なかったんですね。この最高のパートナーと組んだらメトロイドドレッドは必ず完成すると確信しました。そして 15年前に思い描いた以上のメトロイドドレッドがこうやって完成しました。
How crazy is that? The best thing about Metroid Dread is how it has come together to unite fans of the series, players who have never played a Metroid game before, action platform enthusiasts, horror fans, and pretty much anyone with an itch for an adventure. It tells an incredible story and has such a gorgeous and fascinating world where it takes place. I tell you, every single beat and story segment had me feeling like Charlie Day in that scene from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, just theorizing what the heck is going on. I had so much fun playing it that I've even begun practicing a speedrun for it. Currently aiming for a sub 2 hour any % run, but I'll be practicing for that more after I'm done with this video. But no matter how I look at it, Metroid Dread stole the show this year. If you have a Nintendo Switch, go to the eShop and try out the demo. Tell your coworkers to try it out. Tell your girlfriend, your boyfriend, or your significant other, and you can have a Metroid date night. There has not been a better time to get into the series, and my gosh, the upcoming Metroid Prime 4 has some big shoes to fill now that it has competition on the Switch. For this, my game of the year for 2021, Metroid Dread. Congratulations! You made it to the end of the video, and it's certainly been a wild ride. So first and foremost, I want to thank you for lending your attention to me for the past 2 hours. I definitely had way more to say this year than not just any other year I've made these videos, but in anything else I have ever produced in my entire life. This is, by a long shot, the largest single-person project I have ever completed, and seeing it through to fruition over the past 5 months has been a labor of love and many sleepless nights. I cannot begin to express my gratitude to all of you who've taken the time to listen to me talk for this long. And I truly hope that you enjoyed your time here and possibly found a new game or two to play along the way. Furthermore, I need to extend a huge thank you to my dear friend Dead Pixel for agreeing to do the voice of Herlock Sholmes in this video. He is an incredibly brilliant and wonderful individual whose kindness and outstanding voice talent helped to hopefully bring a smile to you during the Great Ace Attorney section. I'm going to leave links to his Twitch and Twitter accounts in the description. Bingo! So please, go drop a follow or a subscription if you enjoyed his work here. I certainly was overjoyed to work with him and am incredibly motivated to collaborate with him in the future. Cheers to you, my good friend. And last, but certainly not least, I think I'm going to take a break from videos for a short little while. I actually do have a surprise Shadowverse video for the Omen of Storm's pre-Crosscraft season that has already been recorded and is set to air 1 week from when this video goes live as a little bonus for all of you who enjoy those. But after that, I definitely just need to rest my brain for a bit and just enjoy these games that I love talking about so much. That, and when I get to brainstorming again for my top games of 2022, please don't expect another feature-length film video. Doing all of the writing, recording, rewriting, re-recording, editing, and post-production all on my own took way longer than I had free time. And I'm thinking of mixing it up to 8 in that regard. But please look forward to it nonetheless. I'll also be compiling all of my top games of the year videos into a playlist, so go check out the previous years if you haven't already. With that in mind, I am certainly excited for all the upcoming games of 2022, many of which have actually released already, so it seems like I have some catching up to do. Yes, to all of you who are wondering, I can finally start playing Elden Ring now.
So, one year ends and another begins. One filled with new stories, games, and friends to meet along the way. We know of some, but may be surprised by others. There will be much joy ahead, but also tough times of remorse and heartbreak. Though we may be separated by distance from the state of our world, our hearts are connected by the magical moments these games produce.
Stay safe, my friends. May your new year be filled with fun new games, and may your dreams take you above the stars. This is the Salmon Pink, signing off. And until next time, have yourselves a damn good one.